Hello everyone, welcome to the inaugural, preliminary, first, only video on the Power Wagon Diaries channel. My name's Alfie and we are not in London today. We've taken off to the countryside, somewhere much better suited to getting the amount of work done this car needs. Now, if you're an Instagram follower, you'll probably think, well, what sort of work does the 2cv need? I thought your car was perfect, Alfie. And yes, thank you, I am that good at taking photos. The truth is, if you're up close to it in person, you'll sort of see what's really gone wrong with it over the last couple of years of kind of neglect. I don't want to say neglect, I do take care of the car. So I think what you're about to see is the extent of the work that I got done yesterday when the weather was a bit better. Today it's a little bit horrid and that's why I'm stuck indoors. The camera. It's really not a good idea to try and do sort of paintwork and bodywork when there's still sort of damp in the air. So we're going to go ahead and avoid doing that today and take a little break. We've got a lot to get through. So starting off, we're just going with a basic sort of service. That starts off going out on the local roads and warming up the oil a little bit, and sort of saying your last goodbyes to it while it's still in one piece. And straight away, at least our first little task is to take away all of the bodywork on the car, so everything's a lot more accessible. Very easy to do in a 2cv. If you own one, you'll know what I mean. Oil change, very simple. We open up the oil cap at the top just to allow a bit of better flow coming out the bottom. When you put your drain plug back on, you want to put it on with a new washer, of course, to keep the seal right. Not like my car doesn't leak in a million other places, but you know, it helps. Stick that on. Never needs to be too tight, really. I don't tend to pay attention to specific sort of torque settings here and there. I think it's a little bit pedantic. Just tight enough where it feels right. Of course, alongside an oil change, you change your oil filter as well. Quick little tip here, if your oil filter gets stuck on every single time like mine does, I tend to just hammer a screwdriver into the top and lever it off that way. There are tools to get the oil filter off, to be honest, but I haven't really made the investment for that, so I don't really care. You're going to throw it away anyway, so who cares if you get a big jabby hole in the side of it. That's it. Pull it off, and you want to dip your finger in that new lovely oil and run that round the gasket of the oil filter. That helps it form a nice seal with the engine. And we're taking those cam covers look crusty as hell, don't they? So this is sort of my opportunity, I think, to take them off for a bit of a restoration because I didn't like the look of them. Clean out that little spill. That looks proper. First things first, we're going to attack the cam covers with a wire brush. Now it looks a whole lot more satisfying in fast motion than it did in the flesh. That's because it does take an age to just get it right, and you can never really take too long for a decent paint finish. Once that was all scraped off and good, clean it off with some degreaser wipes, and we are ready for primer. Of course, I opted for matte black. It looks nice and neat and out of the way, and I think it's a big improvement. Next little bit of the basic service is we're gonna do the valve clearances. You'll notice I haven't actually put any oil in the car yet. That's because it actually you lose an enormous amount of oil when you take off the valve covers, and I sort of wanted to wait until the clearances were done and dialed in before I replaced all the oil in again. Very easy thing to do with a 2cv. You stick a 14mm socket in the fan and you spin it until the valves are in the correct position. And you undo your retaining nut and just lightly dial in your valve clearances with a feeler gauge until they are at the right gap. I actually did this wrong the first time around. I had to do it again the second time around, but for illustrative purposes, this video is just fine, isn't it? And this is the really satisfying part. A dry, new painted cam cover. I hope this is a theme for the rest of the week's work, because if I can get the rest of the stuff I'm doing looking half as good as that, I'll be happy. Simple job this, replacing the air filter element, and of course replacing the sparks. I didn't actually have one on ready that quickly. It's just the magic of video editing, people. Now, another one of the sort of non-service jobs I wanted to get out of the way on day one was painting up the exhaust. So we're getting rid of all the sort of ancillaries that are in the way at the moment. I tacked this crusty surface with an angle grinder. I've not used an angle grinder in years. To tell you the truth, they absolutely terrify me. So I just sort of been avoiding them. This is an angle grinder with a wire brush attachment. The torque in your hand, it just feels like you're running a little engine. It's high risk of injury, so I avoid that as much as I can, and I just sort of finished off the job with a wire brush. I didn't really need it to be perfect, to be honest. I need it to just be a sort of serviceable finish for the exhaust paint, which actually doesn't need that good of a finish to adhere to. It's more the heat that bakes it on afterwards. Anyway, looks miles better, I think, even though it was quite a sort of quick job with... Don't judge my masking with all the newspaper sort of crammed in there. It's not really a top job, but do you know what? It looks good enough. Of course, when I bought all my tools for this job, I opted for the world's smallest, cheapest jack, which was a mistake. It didn't even get it high enough off the ground to get the wheels off, so kind of useless in that way. Incidentally, in this shot, you'll notice my neoprene Burton dampers have split after only about 6 months on the car. Very disappointed with the quality on that. The rest of them, I've got 6 gaiters on there from Burton, and 5 of them are doing just fine, but let's hope that one's just a faulty one, but it hasn't lasted. So that'll be an MOT failure, got to get that fixed. Greasing job's dead simple. Stick the grease gun on a couple of pumps of the thing until it comes out the top, and then you just clean off the excess. It's something you got to do something every 1,000, 2,000 miles or something like that, and I'm always getting failed on MOTs for that, for just too much play. So I'm not really sure what this video is supposed to be, really. I hope it kind of evolves into its own sort of little thing, but please don't treat this as an instructional. I am my own mechanic, and that doesn't mean that I'm necessarily very good at that. I just know that before I owned a 2cv, I used to watch videos like this on YouTube by people like Hubnut and Burton 2cv, Mahari Cassis, and that kind of thing. And since I spent so much time watching their videos, I thought it wrong not to pay it forward and make some videos of my own. So I hope you enjoyed coming along for this part 1 of my sort of semi-restoration. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this title yet. I've probably titled it something like 2cv Restoration, because that might be a little bit clickbait, but it doesn't really need a full restoration, but it does need a kind of, I guess, a service plus. So that's what I'm here doing. That's what I hope to achieve. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, stick around for part 2, part 3, part 4. I have no idea how many parts there are going to be to this. And go ahead and subscribe. And I will not bother you with regular uploads, because this is not going to be a regular thing on this channel. But I'm glad you took the time out of your day to watch this with me. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.